Hello everybody, this is AJ from the mighty Gluestick, and today I'm just going to be giving you a brief tutorial in the form of a picture montage of how I make the special eye technique that I've been using on my miniatures. I've been meaning to get around to this for ages, so sorry for the delay, but this piece is part of a larger work which I will be showcasing later on. Without giving any spoilers, and it's a large central eye which is going to be a prominent feature of a sculpture. Okay, so first of all I'm starting off with, this is actually an offcut from one of my dungeon tiles, but it suits the task perfectly for what I'm about to do, and I'm just going to draw on a rough eye picture on the front in the middle and cut it out with my craft knife. So cutting that out nice and sort of rough, throw the piece away. And then I knead together some 2-part epoxy putty. This is classic green stuff, and mix that together until it's a nice green consistency as such. And then I will divide it into little bits that I need, and I'm going to be making some strips to lay along the inside of the hole that I've cut through the cardboard, just to line it in there like that, which will allow the other bits that I put on to adhere to the edge nicely. And also stops anything from sort of gumming it up or sticking to the bits of cardboard where it shouldn't. Okay, now I'm making the eyeball itself. This is just a half of a sphere of the green stuff, which I'm forming into a sort of a lens shape. It's a little bit concave on one side, convex on the other. And although you can't really see it, when you're working with green stuff it's very important to keep it moist. And I don't know about you, but most of the people that I've seen working with green stuff either use water or, in my case, spit, because spit's always available. So yeah, it's a bit gross, but there you go. And that allows you to work on it without your fingers sticking to the very sticky epoxy putty. The epoxy itself will stick to itself and to any other epoxy putty, which is the reason why I lined the cardboard with it. I'm now putting it through the back of the piece, and I just make sure that it's nicely adhered to the edges there, and so it looks like that. It's a little bit rough on the front, so I'm going to further smooth that again with moisture, and then I'm going to push on the back to give a nice sort of rounded eyeball shape on the front. Very easy. Okay, now I'm going to make the eyelids, and with this is just a couple of strips of the green stuff, which I'm then going to shape. So it's going to be a sort of a flat edge along one side, and then I'm going to taper it off to make it very thin on the top, and then lay it over the top there. Then of course this is sticking to the piece that I laid along the inside of the cardboard cutout from the very beginning, and it's just sort of touching the eyeball laid against it. So now this is, if you can see, I've added 2 little bits of green stuff to each edge of the eye. This is just an anatomical feature that you find on eyes, and this is a bit of a blurry shot, but it shows me just putting on the lower eyelid as well. And I smooth it off and start sculpting the overall look of the outside of the flesh, and then I've added some texture here just using a craft knife, and this gives you the sort of more interesting skin-like wrinkles and things. It just makes it a bit more interesting. Now I'm just going to wait for the green stuff to set and sit down and eat a pie and catch up on my reading on a feature monster that I'm going to make a video about soon, and thanks to whoever posted that, that was fantastic. Okay, so now the green stuff is set and I can start painting. As you can see in the background there, I've got some off-white. I never actually use pure white during the entire painting of this thing, so I'm going to cover it with a base coat of just sort of washed down black. So that should look like that. There we go. And that just, you can see it's sunk into all of the nooks and crannies there, and I'm just giving a sort of light going over, more concentrated around the inside and around the outside eyelids, and just a very light shading on the actual eyeball itself. I don't want to keep that too dark. Okay, now I've added a copper tone and some base brown, and just mixed it, as you can see on my little painting tray there. And I'm just working on the skin. I haven't actually touched the eyeball at all yet, and I'm just giving it a basic outer skin layer, which I'll touch up again much later on to blend it in with the further things. And of course this is going to have more sculpture around the actual eyeball itself later on, but I'm just concentrating on the eye today just to show you what I do. Okay, now I've added the little red bits, and you can see that it's looking pretty good. Now I'll give it a basic sort of grey-white off-colour white coating across the eye, and that's a nice thin sort of layer, and keep it as even as I can. But as you can see, it's not really that even, it's just kind of rough, because eyeballs really aren't a uniform clear white most of the time, particularly a monstrous eyeball. And now, as you can see, I've added a lot of sort of texture and just hunkered on the white there, very thick, and just it's given a sort of a rough look to it. But yeah, so as you can see, I'm not overly precious about how I put the white on the eyeball. And now I've added just some fine tracery of red to simulate the veins and things that you find on eyes. Now I've added the iris. This is just a base sort of a blue swirly colour, which is mixed in with the white which was already on the eyeball anyway. I haven't waited until it's all dried. I've just gone straight ahead and started on the iris. And then I've blended in some purple and blue shades and red, which I'm then going to make some scratchy daubs and features with a toothpick. And so closing up, you can see that the piece is dried fairly well, and the inside of the eye there is a bit moist already. I've started adding some little daubs of blue and things, just some speckles to give you an interesting iris. And then finally a dot for the pupil. This is just a thick dot of red paint, black paint stuck right on there, and yeah, it really is quite a thick daub of paint. Okay, now I set that down and I wait for it to dry. And in this case, I watch some TV. And then when I came back, it was nice and dry. You can see it in the background, a bit dull looking. And this is some clear araldite, which is a 2-part epoxy resin. And this is ultra clear araldite, so it's going to dry very clear. You can see on the actual packet there that I've used it before, but it's very hard to see the araldite because it is glass clear. Mix together a tiny amount just with the end of my toothpick there. So we've got part A and part B, which I'm mixing together nice and evenly, trying to stop any bubbles forming by mixing it very carefully. I then pick up a drip of the araldite, transfer it to the eye, and just put it down and very carefully go around the entire surface of the iris, going as close to the edges as I can and try not to go over. So colouring it in as you will with a slick layer of sticky araldite. And there we have it. This is the eye now with the lens of the resin over top, and you can see it pops out beautifully. And I just set that down on a surface. In this case it's a roll of sticky tape, plastic tape, and it's just setting right there. Depending on how warm your room is, will set quite quickly. And yeah, all done. There we go. That's how you do it. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the forums.